play Tennessee
So-
this weekend.
We're in John 11 today, finishing up the I am statements. Let's see, 7 is 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sweet, we can do that.
We're in what?
John 11, we're gonna be reading 17 through 27. So if everybody will take 2 verses when you get there.
I'll take the first 2.
I guess I'll take the 32.
Just as you're turning there, just to give a little context,
What chapter?
John 11. So Lazarus has passed away at this point. Jesus waits a few days and then goes to Bethany. And then
I was here, but we don't know.
right before this, both, let's see, no, right after this. And during this, Martha first comes to Jesus and tells him that, you know, I know, well, we'll see what she says to Jesus. And then afterwards, Mary comes and falls at the feet of Jesus and crying. But let's start with verse 17.
17 is where we're starting at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on, I gotta find it. I thought I was doing 1 and 2. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off.
And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house.
Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you.
Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day.
Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?
Yes, Lord, she told him, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who comes into the world. So, what we're looking at here is Jesus arrives a few days later, after Lazarus has died. Martha comes up and basically kind of fusses at him. Like, if you had been here just a couple of days ago, Lazarus wouldn't have died. And she's kind of missing the point of what God or what Jesus has said of like, he's not actually dead, he's just asleep. And I can bring him back. One point of interest in this is when it says that, where is it? Many of the Jews have come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother. So there were those that would just come and kind of gather around, much like we do today. There's also, and I don't recall specifically if they had any, but there were professional mourners that they had. And so you would pay them to come and mourn the loss of whoever it was. You actually see that with Jairus' daughter, I believe. I think it's Jairus. It may not be. One of the little girls that dies, and Jesus goes to the house to raise her, and he like kind of hovers over her for a moment, and then brings her back.
Would that not be Peter or Paul? Paul did the same thing, didn't he?
Or maybe it was. I may be getting mixed up. Anyways, in that story, whoever it is, there's professional mourners who are like paid to wail and whine and carry on and all this other kind of stuff. And they actually mock, whether it's Jesus, Peter, Paul, whoever. And he turns around and he rebukes them. It's like, you just don't know what's going on, basically. So we don't really see that here, but that is kind of an interesting cultural tidbit.
It's like I'm going to pay you to act like you care that my beloved is dead.
Mm-hmm. And technically in the English language, depending on how particular you want to get, John 11:35 is the shortest verse in the English translation.
Uh-huh.
According to some, it's not the shortest verse in the Greek or whatnot, but whatever.
So you don't get.
Can't get much shorter.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So
This is a verse with a comma.
there is what we see here about Jesus himself, and what this kind of reveals about him is a little bit of his compassion. We see that in John 11:35. And of course, we're kind of centering on that I am the resurrection and the life. Just out of curiosity, what were the two prevailing views of resurrection with the Jewish leadership, religious leadership? Do y'all know?
Yeah, the Pharisees believed in it, and Sadducees didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they were Sadducees. I remember it.
I'm still waiting for my how to tell bad jokes class in seminary. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna. I need to ask when I have my academic.
You already
class.
made
It needs
it
to
down
be-
today.
It needs to be student led.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know how faculty is student led.
What's the reason behind the sad you say? What's the, I can't remember.
She's a middle-aged
Because they don't believe in the resurrection.
Oh, okay.
So the Pharisees believed in a resurrection. I don't recall right offhand whether they only believed in a spiritual resurrection or whether it was like a full bodily resurrection as well. The Sadducees did not believe in a resurrection at all. They believed that the life you had here, that was it. When you go back to the earth, you just gone.
Did they not read the law at all? Or pay attention?
So the Sadducees were heavily influenced by Greek
Yeah.
philosophy, specifically Plato, I believe. Which, if you kind of read, there's one of Plato's big things that also affected the early church was this concept of physical material reality is not what is actually real. It's just a mere reflection of what is real. Would you see that, especially in some of the early church fathers, when they kind of shun marriage and sexual relations between man and wife, they kind of shun that. That's very Platonistic in its philosophy, which is where you have the Catholic Church coming out of being like, hey, all priests need to be celibate. That was not always the case. That was a later addition. But that's kind of where that stems. But back to the I am statement, the resurrection and the life. Non-Sunday school answers.
Jesus.
What is Jesus saying when he says, I am the resurrection and the life? Jesus said, I am Jesus. The end.
And that's
He did say that. He has said that.
And that is the Bible.
I mean, pretty much. Give me the Bible in one sentence.
I am the
Jesus.
life, meaning I am the source. I am God, therefore I'm the source of creation.
Mhm.
And him being the source of life, resurrection wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? Non-Sunday school answers. Frog is also not an answer.
Blood squirrel.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm the.
Yep.
When he said.
Go ahead.
When he says, "I am the resurrection," he's the reason that we get a second chance.
Mhm. So, with some of the earlier I am statements, what was he directly calling back by saying, I am whatever?
He's God. He's Yahweh.
Specifically, Yahweh. So he was calling back to the covenant name, saying that I am equal with Yahweh. Is he using that here?
No,
Necessarily.
no,
Not necessarily here.
not capitalized.
Well, the other ones weren't either. But it was
Okay.
very clear, like, there were some heavy inferences back to the Old Testament. So I am the resurrection and the life. I think both y'all kind of hit it on the head. Or actually, all three of y'all hit it on the head. When he says I am the life, it's this concept of going back to creation, right? Which we see in Colossians and several other verses that it points back that all things were created through him, by him, and for him. This also kind of goes back to what we talked about last week in John 15 about I am the true vine. Apart from me, there is no life, because he is the main branch of the vine. The resurrection is more or less him making a statement of death is subjective to me, which again is a very God-centric trait, that he is the master of death. I lost my train of thought. It was there. There we go. So we think back to things like Samuel coming back with the witch of Endor, right? We think of, there's a story, and I don't remember exactly where it is, and I think it was the bones of Elisha, because Elijah went to heaven. But I believe it was the bones of Elisha. There was a war going on, and two Israelites were carrying their fallen comrade, and he was kind of dragging them down. The enemy's coming up quickly behind him. So they take him and they chunk him in a cave, and he happens to land on the bones of a prophet, which I believe was Elisha, and immediately the dude's resurrected. And comes out and is like, wait for me.
I'm not dead.
I'm feeling better. So we have stories like that. We have things like, is it in Ezekiel? There for a little while, that was like the popular thing, like the dry bones coming to life, and there were a whole bunch of songs about it.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was kind of annoying. In the name of Jesus.
It's kind of annoying in the name of Jesus.
Yeah. So it kind of calls back to these imageries that are there and very central to the part of Jewish understanding. Also, I believe, and I have not read 1st and 2nd Maccabees, although I think there's like 4 books, but whatever. Anyways, not getting into that. But there are stories in there that talk heavily about resurrection. And excuse me, even though the general consensus is that those are not among the generally accepted books of the Bible, they are good history books to kind of understand what's going on in the intertestamental period, that 400 years between the end of the Old Testament, beginning of the New, because it does deal with the Maccabean revolt against the I just forgot their name. There was Ptolemy and his kingdom, and then there was the Seleucids. There we go. So they were fighting directly against the Seleucidian, whatever, however you say that. Which, funny enough, that's where, out of the Maccabean revolt, after the Maccabean revolt, that's where the Pharisees come from. Because the majority of the copies of the Old Testament had been kind of squashed a little bit, and they were the ones who they took the time to memorize the law, and they upheld the law.
A little too well.
Later on, yes, but we kind of paint them as these like bad guys who are like creeping around in the top hats and the cape with the, the little French twirled mustache. You know, tying young women to train tracks kind of evil
Dastardly
guy.
man.
Yeah, very much.
The ancient Jewish mafia. Legal though.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we paint them, and that's really not where they were. They were scholars.
Mhm.
Now they got to the point where they made the mistake of desiring
Power.
legal righteousness, quote unquote, with actual righteousness. So like you couldn't take so many steps from your home. Well, what they would do is they would literally have people carry things from their home, and every like 7 or how many ever steps they would put something down, so then they would just like extend their home so they wouldn't actually be bound. It was really dumb. They did really dumb things like that.
Have you
Walking around kosher light switches, how you're allowing the light to
Yeah.
turn on.
Yeah.
Was they on house arrest?
On the Sabbath, more or less. And that's
Yeah.
that's kind of what they turned it into.
Yeah,
Which
it's like they wouldn't even swat a fly. If you're real devout, you wouldn't even swat a fly that comes
Yeah, 'cause
by.
that would be
'Cause
considered
you don't wanna
work.
move, or you don't wanna
Yeah.
work. or
Yeah,
do-
considering Jesus and his disciples were walking in the field and one of them went. Like,
Yeah.
He's working. He's like, it's not even his field, dude. If anything, he's stealing.
Yeah, which technically under Jewish law, he's not stealing.
Yeah.
Because there is provision for that.
Yeah.
But they kind of put these things towards an unhealthy adherence to traditions. And of course, they added things to it. Baptists, we might have an issue with that too.
my mind went to the was it the Sound of Music? It was the tradition. Was that
Fiddler on the Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof. That's it.
Yeah.
One of those two.
If you've never seen Fiddler on the Roof, it is a very long musical.
Yeah.
But it's very good.
It's worth watching once, and then you can understand the ridiculousness of what it is, and also the good parts.
And also the good part.
Sounds like good.
If I were a young man. So resurrection and the life. So what does it mean for us today? Class discussion. It's like the most basic answer. Although you won't catch me asking, how does this make you feel? I'm sorry, but your feelings don't really matter. They do, but they don't.
Can't handle the truth.
Few good men. So, Jesus being the resurrection and the life, obviously, I'll take the obvious one off the board. Salvation, right? Because without Jesus, we don't have life. We're spiritually dead. We're not going to be resurrected to life. We'll actually be resurrected to death, which is a fun thing.
I gotta go back again.
It'd be a fun thing to try to explain.
Oh, there's not going to be much
If you die and
explanation
you're
for that.
resurrected into death.
I mean, that's what hell is.
Yeah.
Separation.
You
from God.
stand before the Great White Throne Judgment, where he separates everybody.
Great White Throne is where he
It's where he judges.
passes the judgment on those who did not. There's like 3 different judgments
Yeah.
in Revelation. It's
You
really
get to the judgments, you wake up, you're resurrected, and it's like,
uh,
oh, all this stuff that they said was true, and God's like,
Look up,
Yep.
all of a sudden there's that big old white throne, like, dang it, I messed up.
yeah.
It's just a big white rocking chair from Cracker Barrel.
I mean, God does have a sense of humor.
Sounds
So
like you done messed up.
You know,
he just said there was some distance
just,
tonight.
just the people from the South see that.
So,
The South was right, son.
Gabriel has a 4 for no one.
And if you look in the
That's
corner,
five stars.
you see the little spinny thing with all the country music on it.
uh,
So
there are
resurrection.
some people who actually kind of have that view of God, that he's going to have, you know, the
The Cracker Barrel manager?
Heaven's gonna be the deep south.
pretty much.
Dude, that'd be
They're gonna get up there and just be like, all right, what was his name? Charlie Burner, what, no, Charlie, whatever.
Kirk?
No,
Oh.
No. That one down in Georgia.
Charlie Daniels?
Charlie Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
I almost said Charlie Brown, and I was like, that's not right. Is Charlie Daniel right? No, South did not do it again. All right, so resurrection and life. Let's spin it this way. In a gospel conversation or an evangelistic interaction, you're talking to somebody about faith. How does this play into that? If you're talking with an unbeliever who has not much concept of the afterlife, or they may think something in the more along the lines of like nirvana, where we're technically still have life, but it's like you just kind of become a part of this eternal cosmic consciousness. Or they may have like an atheistic where it's just, this is what you got when you close your eyes, it's just darkness. And you cease to exist. How do we take this concept of Jesus being the resurrection and the life and communicate with him?
One thing I have read is, you can think of it like electricity and how Adam was plugged into the wall. During the fall, he was unplugged. We remain unplugged, and when Jesus says he is the life, he is a power source itself that we can plug back into by accepting him.
Interesting.
It's very 21st century thing to say.
Yeah.
I like it though,
I do like it.
That's interesting.
I can see the youth trip now. Plugged into Jesus. And it's all about like,
Someone needs to make a YouTube channel called like Crimes Against Christianity, and it's just all the bad puns that youth ministers have had over the years.
unplugged for
And have like
Jesus.
the Jeopardy fail music, or not the Jeopardy fail music, the Price is Right fail music
yeah.
when they miss the mark.
I thought it was just a loud buzzer.
No, that's on the no, the exit, the loud thing from Family Feud when someone gets it really wrong. It's like,
Survey says you're wrong.
survey says that wasn't even close.
Yeah. So I like that. What are some other ways that we can kind of communicate that without being overly preachy and Christianese?
It is a hard. You talking about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like
What
it
time
sounds like a weird 18-wheeler driving back.
That's the car one.
Gosh, yep, that would definitely be a car.
So let's tie this back into, okay, how do, all right,
It's kind
so
of it's kind of a
yeah.
hard thing to discuss, especially when you've been in the church as long as we have, or at least as long as I have, where you've just heard churchy stuff,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Go evangelize." Like, yeah, but how? They don't know what sanctification, and they probably know somewhat what salvation is, but not really.
Mhm.
You mean saved to Jesus, but that's great. What does that mean?
What am I being saved from? That's, I don't need saving,
Mhm.
I'm doing fine. You might be.
Yeah, especially
Now.
with the perspective that it's for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
When like I would get more comfortable
The
from
opiate of the people.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. It's what is reality.
Yeah, and I think,
I'm comfortable where I am right
Yeah.
Let's talk
now.
more about that. What is reality?
what is reality? God,
Oh,
I
We have a
mean,
discussion.
more or less. So reality, this is actually an interesting topic, and I'll say like two things on it and we'll move on. With the problem with evil class that I'm taking right now, that has come up. So obviously you have kind of the Platonistic like reality, what's physically there, it's just a shadow of what's actually real. Which he took it to really weird things like, that's not a chair, it's the reflection of the essence of a chair.
isn't he the one
What?
that did the cave where he had stuff pass behind him and they're like, oh, that's
Yes.
reality because that's all we see.
And so he would have like shadows, and the shadows is what we see as reality, but it's what's actually passing in front of the light source, the reality. That's kind of
It's weird.
the typical thing. But so you have that idea that, you know, physical material reality, like our bodies are not the actual real things, our spirits are. You have some of that, and you see that in the early church. But if you really kind of dig into it, what God is saying is that both the physical world and the spiritual world are both equally real in coexistence, and in many cases overlap, and we're actually an overlapping point. Because we as spiritual beings who are made in the image and likeness of God, we sit kind of in both worlds, because we can experience things on a spiritual level, but we also experience things physically. So reality is both, things seen and unseen. Do what?
So we're all hand one.
It's the best.
Sorry.
Lord Jesus, forgive us for our sins.
Yeah.
Her name is forbidden in the church.
That's not what I said.
What were we saying? Resurrection and life.
Two
Okay.
realities into one.
Yeah, what was the question I asked? But I've already forgotten about
The question was, how do we explain the resurrection to life to someone who has quite literally no concept of?
That's where I was going with it. John 6:26, I think it is. Maybe 6:29. How does that understanding of salvation fit in with this verse? I'm gonna read this verse again. John 11:25. Jesus said to her, and the resurrection of life, the one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. So John 6:26, where he says that the only work that God requires of you is that you believe in the one that he sent.
Yeah, 29. It's like, this is the work of
29,
God, that you believe in him who
yeah.
he has sent.
So, again, I think we kind of fall into this like salvation conversation of I can finally be like, the whole conversation of it's works, it's faith, it's both. Let's move on. Jesus said it. The work is faith, faith is the work. Ta-da, yay, let's go.
Is it works or is it faith?
James,
Yes.
James is not talking about salvation or works in terms of salvation. He's talking about it in terms of sanctification. Therefore, if you have faith, which is the work unto salvation, not a work, the only one, then that faith should produce other things. It should produce charity, generosity, kindness, patience, all the fruits of the Spirit.
All the fruits of the Spirit.
Fruit, correct. Excuse me.
Yes.
That is correct. Yep. But it also, again, what he's talking about in James, where he says, paraphrasing, that your religion is worthless if you're not taking care of the orphans and the widows. Right? If you're not doing the things. Why? Because your faith isn't there. If your faith is there, you will more or less be compelled to be like, I see a need, I need to go and minister in that. It's that compassion that we also see in John with Lazarus. So let's wrap up the story with Lazarus. So he goes up to the tomb, and what does Jesus do?
First he cries, then he's like, all right, enough of that.
Mhm.
And he walks up there, tells them to remove the stone.
Mhm.
And they're like, it's gonna be stinky because he's been in there for 4 days. And then Jesus is like, he said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you'll see the glory of God? And then he prays before he says this.
Mhm.
He's like, Lord Jesus, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you will always hear me. And I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you have sent me. So it's not that he necessarily had to pray,
Mhm.
but to show them that he and the Father are working together.
Mhm. I do think there's an interesting point about prayer in there, in that he opens the prayer with, "Thank you for hearing my request."
Mm-hmm.
If you're praying for something specific, you know, somebody's sick, you know, God, heal them, leave them here, whatever. Thank you for answering the prayer. Done. Walk as if it's happened.
I mean, he will one way or another.
Well, and that kind of goes back to that faith thing. But what else
And
does
then
Jesus do?
he says in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And Lazarus kind of just mummy walks his way out.
Yeah.
He's like, "All right, unbind him."
Yeah,
Take-
so
take the cloth off.
Lazarus is fully in his burial garb, which
Means nothing.
at this
besides
point
those-
he is completely wrapped, pretty much like this, from head to toe. He's got about, I think it's either 40 or 80 pounds, I think it's 40 pounds of like spices
So he's like,
on him.
"Lazarus, come out."
Bro, season real good.
Yeah, and he's over there just like, I'm coming, Jesus.
He was like, "Lazarus, come out." It's not that easy.
He just rolls out.
Yeah, no, not everybody can be like Jesus, who's just like,
roll out.
and then like fold the face cloth. There you go.
And then just face through the stone. Could you imagine if Lazarus spoke up? Just, man, this stuff stinks.
I do kind of have this is definitely like headcanon.
I'm not drinking that
This is
cheap
not-
wine anymore, I tell you what.
This is very much headcanon, not this total speculation, but I like the idea. I would love to find out when we get to heaven that Joseph of Arimathea is one of the 500 that he came back to, that he like reappeared to. And it's like he just pops up to him and is like, "I made your bed for you." And just leaves. And Joseph's like,
What?
"What?"
He's like, "Huh?"
How did Lazarus know which way the opening was?
He followed the sound of the
It
voice.
only took him a hot minute to get out of there.
Yeah, it's like, "Lazarus, come forward."
Yeah.
Ready to
I do. Every time I've heard this thought, everybody's like, if Jesus didn't use Lazarus' name, then everybody buried in that tomb would have come out and all of it. Which
That would have been
is pretty
funny.
accurate. I mean, if he hadn't have been like, "Hey, I want you," then if he just said, "Come out," then everybody's like, "Whoa!"
What he was like specifically targeting Lazarus stuff.
You can just-
Even if he didn't say his name, I still think it would have only been Lazarus.
Everybody wakes up, he's like, "Not
But-
you, just him."
Like,
Okay.
yeah. I'm like sleep.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's some speculation on some of that kind of stuff that we could have, but the main point there is he was like, "I'm the resurrection and the life. You want to see it in action? Hey, Lazarus, come here."
He's like, "Come here, hang on."
It would have been even funnier if
If
like
he was
Lazarus is grunting and groaning because he's sore and stiff, and he's just like,
It'd have been
"Wait,
funny.
wrong
been
thing. That
funny.
hadn't been
It
invented
would have
yet."
been
About
hilarious.
time.
It'd been hilarious if Jesus had like already resurrected him and Lazarus was just standing at the door. He's like just like one step away from where they can see him. He's like moves the stone, "Lazarus, come forth." Already done.
And to really raise the hackles on some of the older people, it's just like Jesus walks up and gets that like Bob Barker microphone. It's like, "What's behind door number 1? It's Lazarus!" And then everybody's like, "Yeah, wait, what? Whoa!"
Hang on a second.
And you get your brother. Aw.
The grave just turns into a game show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
I feel like-
talking about the Martha.
The grave.
So
It's-
I feel like whenever we do put this on YouTube or Facebook, or if anybody like older sees it, they're definitely gonna be like, "Oh my God, such blasphemy!" blah, blah, blah." Okay, Jesus has a sense of humor, and it's okay.
Right.
I mean,
You
I mean,
can
he
look at
did-
some of the things that happened in your own life and not laugh. Be like, "Yep, God was really
I mean,
laughing
he-
in that moment."
He
Like,
had to have had a sense of humor because considering he made Philip just like appear in the desert, run beside a chariot, and be like, "This is how you become saved. You're baptized." Poof.
I mean, yeah, he did
Teleporting Philip.
create the donkey from Shrek to tell Balaam he was wrong.
I mean,
That is very true. He's like, "Okay, now speak it."
oh, that would have been so great if he had an Eddie Murphy voice too.
Like,
that
why you keep
donkey won't
stabbing me?
forever have a
Yeah, yeah.
voice now.
Hey man, why you
Okay.
keep stabbing me?
So on that, we'll
He's like, "Oh, shit."